Human factors plays a role in aviation in almost every flight. A simple maneuver such as a go-around can turn into an escape maneuver just like that. Today is June 23rd, 2024, and on June 15th of 2024, an internal memo from Southwest Airlines highlighted an event that had occurred on April 11th of 2024. My name is Joe Wildcat. This is the Cold and Dark channel, and let's talk about the story about Southwest Airlines Flight 2786. So, a report by the Aviation Herald and Simon Hradecky over at the Aviation Herald highlighted an event that happened on April 11th of 2024 that an internal memo from Southwest Airlines brought to light and was released to the Aviation Herald. A Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-8 MAX, registration November 8788 Lima, performing flight Southwest 2786 from Honolulu to Lihue in Hawaii, was conducting a non-precision approach into Lihue's runway 17 when the crew initiated a go-around at about 1,000 feet AGL due to the weather. Subsequently, initiated a rapid descent, which stopped at about 400 feet AGL. The aircraft then climbed to 3,000 feet, entered a hold, and returned to Honolulu for a safe landing. According to ADS-B data, the aircraft descended normally through 950 feet MSL at about 5, 12, and 31 seconds, with a sync rate of about 800 to 1,000 foot per minute. However, at 5, 12, and 47 seconds, the aircraft was seen through 875 feet MSL at a high climb rate. What happened in these 16 seconds is described in an internal memo circulating in Southwest Airlines stating that during the go-around due to weather conditions, the FO, pilot flying, inadvertently pushed the control column forward while monitoring and setting the engine power setting, causing the aircraft to descend about 400 feet MSO before the aircraft started climbing again. The airline stated that the occurrence has been handled by the SMS, or Safety Management System, and that the FAA is looking into the occurrence. So if we take a look at the conditions at Lihue, I have it on the next slide, but the weather conditions, starting at about 7 minutes prior to the incident in question, weather was 110, winds were 110 at 17, gusting at 24, visibility 4 miles, mist, few clouds at 700, broken at 19, overcast at 4,700 feet. About 3 minutes after the incident, winds were 120 at 17, visibility was 2 miles, mist, scattered clouds at 700, broken at 18, and overcast at 46. So as you can see in those 10 minutes, the weather reduced dramatically. As we can see by the ADS-B data, everything looked normal until they got onto the approach. They leveled off at about 3,000 feet, it looked like, started the descent, initiated the go-around somewhere around here when I looked at it on FlightAware. And what should have been a normal pull-up and climb away, and they ended up descending about 400 feet. If you look at to about 400 feet. If you look at the approach chart here for the RNAV GPS runway 17, they probably joined it at Kobik, then descended via this path. If you notice, final approach course offset is about 15.02 degrees. What that means is basically the final approach course is not lined up with the runway. It's about 15 degrees off, and the reason for that can be for any number of reasons, but typically it's due to terrain approaching the airport where they have to offset it due to safety minimums, which requires a higher minimums because you have to be able to obviously see the runway. And if you were only given like 200 feet, you wouldn't have time to make that correction to line up with the runway. So as you can see, it's an LNAV and an MDA approach. So it's only got LNAV with not even VNAV or VNAV minimums, but of a 940 and 2.5 statute miles of visibility. So what we can see here is based on the weather. The overcast layer was fine, however, it was misting and the visibility was dropping. So as you saw in the last 10 minutes of, basically the 10 minutes surrounding that flight, it went from 4 miles to 2 miles of visibility. So at a certain point, obviously they made the right decision if they didn't see the runway at 2.5 miles to go around. Up until that point, that flight was going as it normally would. They made the correct decisions on the go around. They flew according to the ADSB data, they flew the approach very well. And everything started coming down to in the go around. So as stated, something happened in the go around where the pilot inadvertently pushed the control column forward. And a lot of people might say, well, why did that happen? Why not just look at the instruments or whatever? There's a a illusion that occurs in flight, especially when there's no exterior visibility, called somatographic illusion. This occurs during rapid acceleration and deceleration in flight. This illusion usually happens when there's limited visibility and your body reacts to senses over the actual flight instruments. It's the same thing that kind of got, I believe it was JFK Jr., where instead of looking at the flight instruments, he was going off of what his inner ears were saying, and he thought he was pulling up, and instead he was entering a spiral into the ocean. But it says here, as you accelerate, your body senses a pitch up moment, so your natural reaction is to pitch down. I think, if you ask me, I think that's what kind of happened here. And in talking to pilots about this isn't the first time somatographic illusion has taken an aircraft almost either down or almost down. For those who remember the Atlas Air 76 that crashed in Trinity Bay, that was the illusion that the FO was feeling. That he felt that the nose was coming up because he kept adding power and he was pushing down, when in actuality he was nosing it over even more. So what I suspect happened is, due to the lack of visual cues outside of the aircraft, the FO, with the high power setting of the max engines, caused a upward momentum, and him thinking that, oh, we're pitching up too much, let me go add downward trim, while looking at the engine gauges and not looking at the PFD to see what the actual airplane was doing, caused him to, instead of actually be climbing, which he felt, caused him to be descending. And it was only at 400 feet when the captain realized, firewalled the engines, recovered the aircraft, and it being as light as it was, blew past 3,000 feet. They kind of came back, leveled off at 3,000 feet, entered the hold, and that was probably one of the best decisions they could have made, because in looking at the trend, the visibility was going down, and there was only a non-precision approach going into Lihue. So a return to Honolulu was probably the best option at that point. In doing some research about this flight, it came about that the first officer was a relatively new hire to the airline, and the captain, as far as was either a check instructor or something like that. And what this shows is it can happen to anybody. I mean, when we say new hire in aviation, especially with the mainline airlines, so Southwest, United, American, Delta, these pilots come into those airlines with 3,000 to maybe 5,000 hours of flight time. So they're not new pilots. This isn't the first jet they've ever flown. this isn't the first operation of a airliner that they have. And yet, as you can see, even experienced pilots can fall prey to somatographic illusion, causing this. Like I said, 16 seconds doesn't define, but human factors definitely played a part in this incident. I'm glad everybody survived. This isn't the first time that something has happened. They recently are in the news for another incident, which we will cover on this channel, of a low altitude incident. But if you ask me, this is a clear case of somatographic illusion. You know, I don't think. So as you can see, aside from 16 seconds of a perfectly normal flight, this crew operated in a professional manner, made the correct decisions, I think, to return back to Honolulu and live to fight another day. This is why we need to have two people in the cockpit. I know there's talks recently about having a single, with the amount of automation that is coming around, it is still important to have two people on the flight deck. As you saw, one person feeling something different could make the entire system fall apart. In interviews and in, I believe, this memo that was released or circulated in Southwest Airlines, the FO did not hear the JIPWAs or any warnings due to him being task saturated and kind of myopic to setting the engine power. And that is a human factors occurrence. There was a 7.6 a few years back at O'Hare that caught on fire. And while responding, the fire trucks, so in a ARF vehicle, they have a lateral sensor that kind of tells you, hey, you're getting to the point where you could possibly tip over. If you watch those videos, you can hear them almost consistent tone, which means, hey, you're very close. As somebody who has operated an ARF truck at one point in his career, it's noticeable. It's not quiet. It's pretty loud. But in talking with those individuals, they said, yeah, we don't remember that. We never heard that. And it's a adrenaline function of the body to kind of cut out anything that doesn't mean anything, at least in the body's perspective of, basically the fight or flight reflex. And so it is perfectly plausible that in a task-saturated, adrenaline-filled 16 seconds, that he definitely didn't hear it. And I truly do believe that he probably didn't hear it. That is just my take. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to comment below. Again, my name is Jet Wildcat. This is the Cold and Dark channel. Subscribe below. We do not get any pay as of right now for these videos. These are just my research. I think people should need to know that these are real possibilities in aviation for those airline pilots and for even GA pilots. Once again, my name is Jet Wildcat. This is the Cold and Dark channel. We'll see you next time.